Good day, everyone. My name is Patrick Love. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs at New York Institute of Technology. I'm also a member of the Senior Scholars, and I am working with the Journal of College Student Development to host a series of videos where authors get to talk about the practical implications of their work being published in the journal. And today, I'm speaking with Teniell Trollian. Teniell is an assistant professor of educational policy and leadership at the University of Albany in New York. Teniell will be speaking about her article entitled, "Are There Cognitive Consequences of Binge Drinking During College?"
Thank you. I worked on this article with two co-authors from the University of Iowa, Professor Brian Ahn and Professor Ernie Pascarella.
Well, it's great to have you participating in our interview series. The topic is obviously the impact of binge drinking on students and students' cognitive development. What led you and your co-authors to this topic?
So my co-authors and I, we tend to study how students' experiences in college influence college outcomes. And so a lot of the work that we do is around both students' academic experiences and students' out-of-class experiences in college. And so we've done a lot in terms of looking at how many of these different experiences actually facilitate or take away from students' critical thinking gains in college. Critical thinking is one of the most talked about outcomes of college.
And why is this important to look at now?
Now more than ever, we have more students coming to campus, a diverse body of students coming to campus. And so, we have numerous incidents that occur every year on college campuses that involve alcohol, that involve binge drinking behaviors, consequences of binge drinking behavior with the spike in issues related to sexual assault and student violence. And so, now more than ever, I think understanding this particular student experience in college and many of its outcomes, not just critical thinking, but other outcomes of this type of student behavior is essential for understanding how we might improve students' experiences and reduce high-risk behaviors that could have negative consequences for students.
Why should practitioners out there read this particular article?
I think the findings from this particular article were some of the most fascinating findings that I've read about binge drinking. One of the most interesting pieces of this was that while we looked at general effects for all students of binge drinking behavior on critical thinking outcomes, we found a particular difference for students who come from lower critical thinking backgrounds or are students who are most academically at risk. What we found when we disaggregated this sample was that students who had these lower levels of critical thinking ability who engaged in binge drinking had significant deficits in terms of their critical thinking gains by the end of 4 years of college. The students who came in with higher levels of critical thinking ability are higher achieving students. Their binge drinking behavior really didn't seem to have an effect on their critical thinking gains.
What are a few practical implications that you would encourage practitioners out there to consider in their work in terms of applying the findings of your research?
One of them is really to sort of focus on high-risk drinking behaviors in general for students. We know that these high-risk drinking behaviors have many negative consequences for students. And while this article looks specifically at critical thinking, we know from some of the other research literature that there are health consequences, there are psychosocial consequences, there are a number of reasons that we would want to sort of monitor and try to reduce high-risk drinking behavior when students are in college. Thinking about these students who come into our institutions academically underprepared, those with lower critical thinking, reported critical thinking at the beginning of college, are where we might want to target some of our efforts. But maybe we want to target some of our prevention efforts around high-risk drinking behavior specifically at these students. Institutions are already, for the most part, targeting students who are coming in with those lower test scores to be able to say what academic supports can we provide for these students.
Mm-hmm.
Is there developmental education that these students might need? Are there tutoring or other academic supports that might be helpful to these students and helping them be successful in our institutions? And so I think that that would couple very nicely with helping students navigate the social environment of our colleges as well as the academic environment of our colleges.
Yeah, if you had a magic wand, what would you do?
There seems to be these expectations around alcohol and high-risk drinking behavior associated with college. And I think if I had the magic wand, I would help educate students about the fact that alcohol can be a part of the college culture. It can be a part of your adult life, but it doesn't have to be something that's the focal point of college. Alcohol might be part of some students' lives, but students are drinking far fewer drinks per weekend, per evening, than students might be perceiving that they actually are. And the pressure to drink or the college culture around binge drinking is actually a bit more of a myth than students might understand it to be.